How to Make Your Cat Love You with Science. Dr. Mikel Delgado. Let me tell you about her. She's a certified applied animal behaviorist and author of Play With Your Cat. And she's got another book. It's called Total Cat Mojo. It's a great title for a book. At a young age, Mikel was obsessed with cats, but not so much with science. So she starts out her biography. I'm going to read it verbatim. This is the beginning of the biography she wrote and posted online. In 1992, I dropped out of college to move to the California Bay Area. Great start to your bio. That's the most important thing in your bio. It'll become obvious why, right? She spent much of the 90s working in a health food co-op and playing bass guitar in punk bands around the Bay Area in California. And after losing her heart cat, she began volunteering at an animal shelter. And she was there so long that when a job opening came up, they said, "Stop volunteering. We want to hire you to be here all the time." And that's where her curiosity about cats and their behavior really drove her at age 38 to go back to finish college, apply to graduate school, hold on, complete a PhD at UC Berkeley in psychology with an emphasis on animal cognition. Then she was a research fellow at UC Davis's vet school. And that, my friends, is how you can become a full-fledged cat expert. And it also goes to show us that it's never too late to find out how you can make a career out of something you love. Please welcome Mikel.
Second to get the tech working, so please bear with me. They don't go over this in grad school very well. Okay, I think we're good. So thank you all for spending your Friday night with me. I know if I wasn't here, I'd be hanging out with Paul Hollywood. But who here loves cats? Yes. Okay, so basically all the coolest people in Austin are here tonight. I found my people. So thank you for being here again. So Jay told you pretty much everything you need to know about me, so I'm going to whiz through this slide. It's true, I had no idea I wanted to be a scientist. That was not anywhere in my thinking until, late in life. But I have been working with cats for 25 years. So I started working in that animal shelter in the year 2000. So it's been a great 25 years. I'm very grateful for the work I get to do, the research I get to do, the people I get to meet who love cats just like I do, and of course all the cats I've met. So yeah, I got a PhD. I currently work as a researcher for Purdue University in an animal welfare lab, but a lot of my time is spent doing consultations with cat caregivers, rescue groups, and corporations to help people better understand cats. That's really my passion in life, is that anyone who lives with a cat, encounters a cat, will have a good understanding of what that cat needs to be happy. And that's really why we're here. But I also know that this is a crowd of people who have probably had cats, in some cases all of your life, right? So who here has a kitty right now at home, or maybe more? Yes, me too. So most of you probably already know a lot about cats, or at least your cats. You probably have strong feelings about cats. So I keep my goals very realistic. If each of you leaves this talk learning one cool new thing about cats, then I'm happy. And if each of you leaves with a better understanding of what your cat needs to be happy and you have a better relationship with them, then I have succeeded in my job, and it was well worth coming to Texas. So, this is what I'm going to go over. I'm going to first talk about how did we get here. And by here, I mean, how did this cat end up on my bed 10,000 years after we first encountered cats? Then I'm going to tell you what's special about cats. And it might not be what you expect, but they do have something about them that I think makes them really unique and sometimes makes them hard for us to understand. Then I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about what cats need to be happy. So that's really, I think, the secret of making cats love you is making cats happy. And I will talk about having a better relationship with your cat. So as a scientist, I like to give evidence-based advice when I can. And obviously we don't know everything about cats, but I want you to know that I'm not just making up the things I'm telling you tonight. And in many cases, I'm going to provide citations or even share a little bit about the research that led us to these conclusions. But feline science is a relatively small field. There's not a lot of us out there. There's different reasons for that. Cats are not the easiest species to study, and most of us who love cats don't want to keep them in a laboratory. So when I have researched cats in the past, I worked with foster caretakers who were taking care of orphaned kittens. So we did a lot of data collection where the foster caretakers helped us in collecting our data for our science. I did a study where we gave cat owners cameras and little kitty Fitbits and asked them to record and track their cat's behavior at home, right? So we're trying to get creative about studying cats in the environment they tend to live in, which is our homes. And so feline science is really evolving. There's always new stuff coming out, but we still know we don't know a lot about cats. So my advice is based on science and, when possible, on studies actually done with cats. If that research is not available, then maybe we extrapolate from other species, right? We know that there's studies of humans or rats or dogs that maybe can tell us a little bit about cats. And if that's not working or available, then we base our advice on our best, like, what do we know about cats? What about their natural behaviors, how they evolved, how they live, and how can we apply that in the home? Okay, so let's jump in. How did we get here? Why is that cat in a cardboard box? They love cardboard boxes. Don't ask me why. Well, so really how cats ended up living with us is we co-domesticated. They kind of domesticated themselves, right? So we have evolved with them, I think, to an extent, but certainly not to the extent that we have with dogs. Now, when we think about domestication, we may think of cats and dogs, but really it started with the adaptation of plants for human use, and that turned into animals, and this was traditionally for food, right? So humans started growing food, storing food, and this was really the start of it all. But domestication is really this idea that we are modifying species for things we want. We want more corn. We want more wheat on those wheat stalks. We want bigger cows. We want chickens that lay more eggs. And so when we select for those traits, the species changes over time, and they become a different species, and often they lose a lot of their wild capabilities. So it's really this idea that we are genetically modifying and artificially selecting these plants and animals for things that we want, for our use. And probably the exception to that is maybe the companion animal. And I would argue that we do use them for companionship. But if you look at, for example, comparing the domestication of dogs to cats, it's a very different process. We domesticated dogs much longer ago than cats, so we're talking more like 40,000 years compared to 9,000 years. Did anybody go to Brian Hare's talk about dogs I think it was last year? Yeah, so some of you, he's fantastic, and he probably talked quite a bit about how we domesticated dogs, and we selected them to do things for us, right? There's a reason that dogs will bring you their slippers, or they will herd sheep, or they will guard your house, right? These are things that humans ask them to do. And we also physically change dogs a lot. So if you look at a 2-pound Chihuahua and a 100-pound Great Dane, those dogs are the same species, but they look very different from one another. You will not see a 100-pound cat living in anybody's home, right? Like, we know better. But we haven't modified cats to the same extent, right? They're still small and cute, but we have not really asked them to, hey, will you, fetch my slippers? Although, cats will fetch, but it's a little different than dogs. So to illustrate the domestication of cats, we've got 3 felines here. I would like you to guess which one is the same species as that cat in the cardboard box, the cat in your house, the domestic cat. So we've got Chunky on the left. What a cutie. Who thinks this is a domestic cat? A couple of you, okay, yeah. And then in the middle, got this little sleek tabby. Okay, we've got some votes for middle. What about kitty number 3? Anybody want to go? Okay, so we've got kitty number 3 is the domestic cat. Good job. The reason I show these pictures is, like, I'm sure if you're like me, I'm imagining all of these cats in my bed right now, just curling up with me purring. But on the left, this is the European wild cat. not cuddly, and endangered actually due to inbreeding with domestic cats. That's how closely related these species are, but this cat is not living in our homes. The middle cat is the African wild cat. So that is the, sorry about that. This is the problem with slide animation, is it goes a little bananas. Okay, so the African wild cat is the domestic cat's closest wild ancestor. So this is the close relative of cats. And of all the existing cat species at the time of domestication, they were kind of the most open to hanging out with humans. They were what we call tractable. Their kittens were able to be socialized and basically tamed so that they would accept the company of humans. And eventually, they became the kitty on the right. So, to the best of our knowledge, domestication started in the Fertile Crescent around 7,500 BC, give or take a few, 1,000 years here or there. And we know that, again, these cats descended from the African wild cat. The African wild cat is a solitary, shy hunter. So they're not a very gregarious species with other cats. And they were attracted to human food storage. So basically, again, humans were settling, storing grains. The grains attracted rodents. The rodents attracted cats. And so sometimes people have heard like, oh, the cats were doing us a big favor. They came and killed all the mice so that humans had food. But that's actually not the case. Humans had dogs and weasels to do that job for us, so we didn't need cats. So this relationship is actually, we benefited the cats more than they helped us. That's how it started, and that's how it's going. So probably, and this is another African wild cat, so again, looks very similar. You want to pet this kitty, don't do it. But to become domesticated, basically it required some of these African wild cats to be tolerant of humans to bring out that thing we love, like, oh, kitty, right? So someone decided like, hey, this cat's pretty cute. And like, oh, I want to touch that cat. And then, oh, this cat is like, letting me get close. And then, oh, I want to feed this cat, right? So then humans start taking care of these cats. They are getting provisions and shelter and safety from humans, which gives them a breeding advantage. So they make more babies. Their babies are also more tolerant of humans. And over time, this accelerates until now you have a cat in your bed. Okay, so yeah, these cats need to be close to humans, and they also have to be a little more tolerant of each other because there's competition for food, and they've got to get in there. My main point in saying all this, and also talking about dogs before, is just that unlike dogs, we didn't ask cats to do very much to become domesticated. It's basically be cute and don't kill me. And, oh, okay, you hunt. All right, that's fine. We haven't asked cats to stop doing that. And so there's been very little selection for physical changes, right? So those cats that I showed you that are wild cats look very similar to the cats we live with. Of course, now we have different color patterns that you wouldn't see in the wild. You don't see black and white wild cats. You don't see like a lot of ginger wild cats. But aside from that, physically cats are very similar to their wild counterparts. And they're also mostly random bred. And what I mean by that is that they're not under human selected breeding. They choose their own mating partner, so about 97% of cats are random bred. And that, of course, includes all the feral cats and free-living cats of the world and not just the pets. But that's a large percentage of cats. They have limited isolation from wild populations, meaning they are interbreeding with those European wildcats in areas where cats are living outside where European wildcats are, which is another reason to really think about the implications of keeping cats indoors only and how that not only benefits cat safety but can prevent the decimation of a species that is endangered. We see fewer genetic changes in cats compared to dogs. And we also see that cats thrive on all continents of the world now, and they don't necessarily need human support. Of course, a lot of cats do get human support, but they can survive without us. And what I'm getting at is really, since domestication, we have not changed cats' behavior very much at all. And so the cat you live with is very much a wild animal in some ways. And the sooner we recognize that, the better relationship we'll have with them. Okay, so getting to what makes cats special. So one thing that causes a lot of problems for the cat-human relationship is our expectations of what they should think, how they should behave, how they experience the world. And if you expect your cat to be a little furry human baby, or a dog, so of course cats and dogs are the two most popular companion animals, so I think it's natural that people want to compare them. Who's smarter, cats or dogs? Who's your best friend, cats or dogs? But the reality is, hopefully you believe me when I say they were domesticated for very different reasons. They have very different domestication histories. There's not really any advantage in comparing them. They're different species and they have different needs, and so you should love your cat for who they are, and if you have a dog, you should love your dog for the dog that they are, and just appreciate the catness. One example of this is our sensory world. We call this your Umwelt, and that's how you experience the world through all of your senses. And you might be cuddling with your cat, you're holding them close to you, and you're thinking like, oh, they can see me so clearly. When you're cuddling your cat, you are fuzzy. Their vision closer than a foot is blurry. They're probably detecting you by smell and by their whiskers, but they do not see you clearly when you're cuddling with your cat. But just to illustrate, because I think we are very visual as a species, that it's sometimes very hard for us to understand that other animals experience the world very differently. They rely on different senses than we do. And of course, when you're picking out a toy for your cat at the pet store, maybe you're thinking like, ooh, this avocado is really cute. It's got catnip in it. The kitty would like this and it's cute, or a pizza slice. So if you look at how we see the world, right? So those greens and oranges really pop, and that's because we are specialized for color vision during the day. Our eyes have a lot of cells called cones that help us with color detection. So we see this beautiful scene, and you're like with your cat, and they're just like, this is drab. It's not that exciting, right? It looks pretty tan. And that's because their eyes are not well designed for daylight color vision. They have many fewer cones than we do, and they have many more rods. And those are cells that are specialized to boost light detection. And so, yeah, during the day, things look pretty drab to our kitties. Now, at night, it's a different story. We're not so great at seeing detail when the light is low. But the cats now have a slight advantage over us, maybe even a larger advantage. You can see they can see much more detail in low light. Now, they can't see in complete darkness. They need some light to be able to see things. But this is just, I think, a good way to take ourselves out of our human brain and try to put ourselves into our kitty's brain and see like, wow, they do not see this view anything like I do. And once you kind of take it sense by sense, then you can understand your cat's experience a little better. And really, every part of your cat's body has evolved to make them an efficient hunter of small prey. So they're really specialized for small rodents and small birds. But really, this is the core of who they are as a hunter. And we have kind of taken their jobs away. I mean, most of us keep our cats indoors, mostly, if not exclusively. So, this is kind of a passion topic of mine, is giving our cats opportunities to play in ways that stimulate their hunting behavior. But really recognizing their job as a hunter is important. And so every sense, right? They have this incredible sense of balance. If you've ever watched a cat like jump up on a fence, it's a beautiful sight to see. They're just incredibly graceful. They can detect sound both above and below our range of hearing. And the ultrasound is helpful to them in eavesdropping on rodent chatter. So this can help them hunt. If they can detect rodents, hey, I hear mice chatting, I'm going to go in that direction. Again, their eyes are specialized for those low light conditions at dawn and dusk when their prey is likely to be active. They have a great sense of smell, which they don't use that much for hunting. They're not like dogs. They're not going to be tracking a mouse for 3 miles or anything like that, but they do have a much better sense of smell than we do, and it can be very important to them in general. They have specialized taste receptors for ATP, which is a chemical signal for meat. So even their taste is developed to say, give me protein. And their sense of touch is exquisite, right? They're very sensitive all over their bodies. They have all these amazing whiskers that help them detect movement of air around them. They have nerve endings in their claws and teeth that also help them with hunting, because when they're grabbing onto their prey with their teeth and claws, they need to be able to detect how much that prey animal is struggling, right? Is this animal dead yet, or do I have to keep fighting? And so their teeth and claws help them with that. Okay, So I've hyped up cats as hunters, but it's also important to remember they're also prey animals. So we talk a lot about cats as predators. They are not a top predator. They're a mesopredator, meaning they're in the middle of the food chain. So they have predators themselves. And that explains why a lot of cats can be nervous, skittish, wary in new situations. I've definitely met a few cats that when they first move into a house with a ceiling fan that's spinning, they get really freaked out by that. It looks like a potential hawk overhead. So being aware of their lifestyle as both a predator and a prey animal can help us understand them. But really, to live with us, I think it's important to recognize that they have all of these instincts that they've carried along with them for thousands of years, which include hunting and eating alone. They are a territorial species. They need to climb, they need to hide, they need to be clean, and they need to conserve energy. They're not lazy, they're just conserving energy. Okay, and I'm going to go into more detail about some of these things very shortly because we are about to launch into part 3, which is what do cats need to be happy? And a lot of this is based on some really nice work that a bunch of cat experts came together and wrote in 2013 about, it's called the Feline Environmental Needs Guidelines, but we call them the 5 pillars of a healthy feline environment. And it's just a really nice document that I think succinctly helps us understand what cats need in the home. Just to get us all on the same page, we hear the word welfare talked about in regards to animals, so I think it's important to just kind of understand what that term means and how animal welfare scientists use it. And so it's not something you do to an animal, it's about the state of the animal, so they're experiencing good welfare or poor welfare. But it is also a reflection of their ability to cope with things happening in their environment. So all of us know that, life isn't always perfect. Things get thrown in your way, bad things happen, and really our ability to recuperate from those bad things, whether they're emotional or family stuff, is helpful in whether or not those things can destroy your life or you can survive through them and come out stronger on the other end. And so, sometimes we call that resilience, right? But part of that is just having an ability to cope. But we also know it's also important to have a good balance. Like if everything in your life is terrible, you're not going to have good welfare no matter what. So we want to make sure that our animals, even if they do occasionally encounter stressors, that most of the time they're having good experiences. We don't want those bad experiences to overwhelm. And we always want animals to have a sense of control and choice. So if something bad is happening, it's always better if you have the option, the choice to get away from that thing or distance yourself or be able to observe something rather than being forced to interact with it. And so we always want to think about with our cats and dogs, like making sure they have a sense of control and choice in their environment, and that's going to help them be happier and have better welfare. So when we think about what a cat needs to be happy, and I think this is true of both indoor cats and cats who have the opportunity to go outside, because the home environment should be the most important environment for your cat. So even if your cat has the freedom to come and go as they like, the home should still meet their needs. But really nowadays, I think most of us recognize okay, cats need food, cats need water, they need a litter box, they should go to the vet. But all the other stuff gets treated like extra, right? We call it enrichment. It's not just what they need, it's a bonus that we provide for them. And so now we try to describe these as environmental needs instead of enrichment because we're really trying to understand that things like toys and scratching posts are just as important as the food and water to your cat's mental health, which of course is not separate from their physical health. My goal, so I work with a lot of cat caregivers who are having behavior problems. It's a lot of what I do is behavior consulting. And I can tell you it's much better to prevent a behavior problem than try to solve one. So it shouldn't be like, oh, my cat is peeing on the bed, so I guess I should fix the litter box, right? You want to make sure the litter box is good before your cat pees on the bed. So we want to be proactive. Don't wait till you have problems. Make things great now and be proactive rather than reactive. So first, cats love to climb. And this is a topic that can be a source of conflict for cats and humans because I get a lot of clients like, he's on the counters, he's on the kitchen table, he's on the dining table, he's on my desk. Cats love to climb. They love to be up high, and if you do not provide them with places that they can climb, they will find them in your house, whether you like it or not. So part of that gets back to the predator-prey lifestyle, which is they want to see what's going on around them. They want to scan the environment for prey that they could eat, and they also want to make sure they can see if anything scary is coming along. So having that vantage point is really good for them. If you have multiple cats, it allows your cats to share space without really sharing. So these two cats are in the same square footage, right? But they're a couple feet apart. So if you have cats that don't love each other, you know, they get along okay, but they're basically in the same spot, but the cats think they're like, you know, really far apart. So they're happy. So it allows them to share space without really sharing. Cats are not the best sharers. It can allow your cat to travel through a space safely. If you have kids, if you have dogs, and you have cats, this vertical space can really make the difference in allowing your cat to feel safe and get away from the scary things on the ground if they need to. So again, you're giving them the choice, which is really important. And there's even research that suggests that vertical space can prevent health problems. So a survey-based study in South Korea found that cats who did not have any vertical space provided for them, so they didn't have any shelving, no cat trees, were more likely to present with urinary tract signs. So they were having urinary tract infections, they were straining to urinate, blood in their urine. And so this suggests that there's a protective effect of being able to see and scan their environment and feel safe. Another area where there's plenty of conflict. Anybody have a cat who scratches their couch? Yeah, a fair amount of you. This is a pain point for a lot of people. So I think it's really important to understand why cats scratch, because I think people are just like, don't scratch the couch, right? Please don't do that. But scratching is a natural behavior for cats. They use it to mark their territory, so they have scent glands in their paws. And they also leave a visual sign with the scratch marks that tells other cats, even if the cats are imaginary, hey, I live here, this belongs to me. So it is partly for marking, but it's also to stretch their back muscles. And so if you give them a rinky-dinky scratching post or a thing hanging on the doorknob that wobbles every time they scratch it, they can't get a good stretch. And your couch is not going to wobble if they scratch it. So the couch is like perfect for a lot of cats because it's so sturdy and tall. So you have to make sure your scratching post is sturdy and tall, meets the cat's needs for what they like when they're scratching. The cool thing is that they also scratch to express their feelings, and we used to think this was a stress-related behavior, but a new study came out this year that actually found an association between scratching and positive states. So the cats were more likely to scratch when their person came home from work and they were excited to see them. They scratch after they nap, after they play. So now we see that this is more complex than we realize. It's not just your cat like, they're actually like, yeah, I'm glad you're home. So it is, again, a really important behavior and a sign of good behavioral health. They also use it to condition their claws. I think this is the thing that people think they're doing, like, oh, he's sharpening his nails. I just trimmed them, and now he's sharpening them. But that's really like the low on the list of priorities for your cat. It's really more about marking their territory, stretching their back muscles, and getting that feel-good moment out of their system. So, it can help to provide your cat with different options for scratching, whether it's cardboard or sisal rope or wood or carpet. Every cat's different, of course, in what they like. Some cats are very much the couch scratching, vertical scratchers, and some cats like rugs or horizontal scratching, and some cats like more of an angled option like this scratcher. So it's always good to offer several options and put them in prominent locations in your house. I think the other thing that a lot of people do is they get a scratching post and they stick it in the back corner instead of putting it somewhere where the cat already scratches. Y'all are suckers for the cute photos. I am too. So cats need places to feel safe. And it may seem counterintuitive, like, well, shouldn't I stop my cat from hiding? Because hiding means something bad's happening. But hiding is a coping strategy for cats. And in fact, this study was done in animal shelters. And, animal shelters were often very hesitant to give cats hiding boxes. Because if the cat's hiding in a box, how are the adopters going to see the cat, right? And so it's always been kind of we don't want to give them boxes because we want them to get adopted. Well, this study demonstrated that The cats who had a hiding box definitely used it, so they were hiding in there. The cats who did not have a hiding box hid in their litter box. Also not like great for the cat or like getting adopted, right? Nobody wants to see a sad cat sitting in their litter box. That's not good. And so the cats who had a place to hide that was provided for them showed decreased signs of stress as their stay in the shelter continued. So they recovered from being in the shelter faster, and there was no hindrance in getting adopted. They got adopted at the exact same rate as the other kitties. So now we recognize in shelters, cats should be provided with a place to hide. And this is true in the home environment too. I think every cat kind of needs, they have a moment where they just need to take a chill break. I don't know if you all have cats like that, but I know that sometimes my cats are just like, I'm done. They, they all have I have 3 cats, so they each have different spots they like to go to. But so in the home environment, I actually recommend turning the cat carrier into a safe space. And some of you are like, are you crazy? If you bring out the cat carrier, a lot of cats run under the bed. That is because the carrier only comes out when? Going to the vet. Nobody likes going to the doctor, including your cat. So if that's the only time your cat goes into the carrier, the only time they see the carrier, then of course when you go to the closet, and probably you're sweating because you got to get the cat in the carrier, so you're stressing out. They're under the bed before you've even opened the closet all the way. So the solution is, sometimes the solution is to get a new carrier so they just don't have a relationship with the old one. But I was actually able to train my cat. This was one of my previous kitties, Beanie. So I just put a fleece bed in her carrier and started feeding her in there, and then she just started hanging out in there. Even if she'd gone to the vet, she didn't come back and say, I'm not going back in that thing again, because she'd had a higher proportion of positive experiences in the carrier than negative. And there was actually a study that came out about 7 years ago that demonstrated, so they had people basically just do that, right? Put some bedding in the carrier, give your cat treats in the carrier over the course of 10 days. And then the person had to take the cat in a car ride to go to the vet. And what they found is that the cats who had been getting treats in their carrier and had time to basically be conditioned to see the carrier as not such a bad place, cried less on the car ride to the vet. They showed fewer signs of stress in general, so less panting and other, hunched over and hiding. At the vet clinic, it took the vet less time to examine them because they were less stressed, and they were also showing fewer signs of stress, like increased respiratory rate and heart rate. So overall, just this simple protocol of helping your cat accept the carrier, reduce stress, probably for the humans too, but definitely for the kitties. And also has the added benefit of now you've given your cat a nice little cozy hiding spot that they can retreat to if they need to. Litter boxes. I help a lot of people with litter box problems, so I have very strong opinions. This is one of my litter boxes. I have 3 cats. I have 4 litter boxes. So this is my litter box. It's a storage bin that I cut a doorway into. It's in my living room, right under my TV, so I stare at this thing, every day. I keep it very clean because it's in my living room. So some lessons about litter boxes. One is that they should be large and preferably uncovered. Now, we like privacy when we go to the bathroom. And so I think a lot of us think, obviously my cat wants an enclosure and a flap and a door and a cover and all these things so nobody can see him going to the bathroom. Your cat doesn't care if you see him go to the bathroom. He does not care about privacy. What he cares about is safety. So he wants to know what's going on around him, and he doesn't want to be surprised while he's going to the bathroom. So by having an open litter box in an accessible location, the cats can see someone's coming, I better abort mission and go somewhere else, or just hope they don't get too close to me. But again, it gives them that sense of choice and control that helps them cope with the potential stress of someone walking in, another cat, a dog, while they're going to the bathroom. We do recommend 1 per cat plus 1, and we also recommend putting those litter boxes in separate locations. So having all the litter boxes side by side in a corner of the basement is kind of like using a bathroom stall compared to a private restroom, right? We have a preference. And so for our cats, if you have the litter boxes side by side, in their mind, you just have one litter box. So we do recommend separating those resources, just like you would. I mean, we'll talk more about other resources that we recommend separating, but generally, cats like their stuff spaced out throughout the house. I don't know if any of you have ever moved in a roommate situation where someone already lived in the apartment and they're like, oh, I made a little corner for you on the bookshelf, right? And the rest of the bookshelf is just their stuff and you have this little tiny space. And you never feel like you live there. And I think we tend to do that with our cats too. Like so many people when I go to their houses, like, oh yeah, look, it's the cat corner. And all the cat stuff is in this like little spot. And the cat really wants their stuff in every room. And that goes for litter boxes too. Scooping daily. I hate to tell you how many people pay me to tell them to scoop their box every day. I mean, that is literally the problem for a lot of litter box avoidance is that the box is not scooped daily. And I recommend twice a day. Set an alarm on your phone if you have to, but this is probably the best thing you can do to prevent litter box problems is just keep that box really clean. Research has shown that most cats prefer a clumping, sandy-style litter, regardless of what it's made of, that texture. Sensitive paws, and again, they're used to kind of their wild ancestors would eliminate in the sandy substrate. So that's typically the texture that they prefer. Not hidden away, so not in a closet, not in the basement, not in the garage, behind a cat flap. We like to have a bathroom on every story of the home. Your cat wants to be able to access their litter box easily too. And this becomes even more true when you have a senior cat. I think it's important for all cats, but definitely if you have a kitty over 10, they need easy access to their litter box. And just like we don't want to eat and drink in our bathrooms, neither does your cat, so please keep the food and litter separate. Okay, my favorite topic is, so we're switching gears. So cats need outlets for predation. Most of us do not want our cats to hunt and bring back birds and mice if your cat goes outside. And cats don't have a lot of opportunities inside the house to hunt unless a fly happens to come in. And if that's ever happened, your cat is probably very excited. But we can simulate predation with playtime with wand toys. And so this is, obviously a bird caught by a kitty. And you can see my cat Clarabelle kind of doing the same thing with her little wand toy that we were playing with. It was just a piece of denim on a string, but she loved it. So when we're playing with toys, we want to select those toys carefully and think again about our cat as a hunter, right? And so the avocado toys are very cute. And certainly cats will play with some of those toys. But when you are playing, you can think like what resembles a mouse or a bird or a lizard or a bug? Like those are the most common prey types for cats. So we want to use toys that resemble those prey animals in appearance or texture, movement. And I've listed a few like toy types or brands if your cat happens to be like a mouser or a birder. What we see in the literature, so people actually like surveyed cat owners about what prey their cats brought home, but then they went and spied on the cats while they were hunting. And they could see that some of the cats were what we call specialists, so they would only hunt one prey type. That was like their favorite, and they wouldn't hunt anything else unless they had no choice. So if there was a lizard, they were going to get lizards. And then other cats were just generalists, like anything that moved, they're like, cool, I'll hunt that. So your cat may be a generalist or a specialist, so it could be helpful to test out a few different prey types and see if your cat really just loves the bird toys, or if they're more of a generalist and will play with anything. Anybody feel like their cat sometimes gets bored of their toys or playing? Very common complaint I hear from cat caregivers. And so researchers sought to figure this out. Why do our cats seem to get bored of toys? This was over 20 years ago. So like people have been asking this question for a long time. But what explains this decrease in excitement over toys? Like pretty sure that if cats were outside hunting, they would not stop hunting. In fact, we know that from observing cats, that they will hunt even when they're not hungry. But in the home, it seems a lot more challenging. And so we see that cats will stop interacting with toys during play. And what most cat caregivers assume is like, he's done. Like he's bored of playing. Like why? Like I'm not going to keep doing this. So what these researchers, Sarah Hall and John Bradshaw, did was try to figure out like what is it that cats are doing? Why do they seem to habituate to toys? So some feline science here. I'm going to walk you through their study. So they looked at lots of cats, both in laboratories and in homes. So they tested a nice sample of different types of kitties. And what they did, it sounds very simple, but they basically presented them with a string with a little furry blob on the end, and they just swing it for the cat for 2 minutes. Then they would take a break and do it again, take another break, do it again. And, they'd have different times between the breaks. So they, looked at does it matter if the break is 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 25 minutes? And so they did a lot of permutations of this study. And then on the 4th session, they provided the cat with a new toy that was basically identical to the other toy. It was just new. The cat had not touched it before. They looked at 2 behaviors. So they looked at clutching, where the cat holds the toy with their front paws very close to their body. And then they also looked at what we call kill bites. So those are bites that cats apply to their prey to kill them. And so the cat in this photo is doing both clutching and biting that toy. So those were the behaviors they were looking at. And so I'm going to walk you through this graph. Okay, so basically, so what we have on the x-axis here is the session number. They didn't present the data for session 2, but just know that it basically followed this pattern where between the first presentation of the toy, second presentation, third presentation, we see that the biting, so that's this spot here, and the clutching go from kind of high to like almost non-existent. So by the 3rd time this cat has seen this toy, they're like, I'm not interested. So then when they present the new toy, we see that suddenly we have more biting than even at the start, and we also have more clutches than we had at the start. So there was this rebound effect where presenting a new toy led to more play behavior from the cat. So the rebound was found, and this was very consistent in all the permutations of the study. It didn't matter if it was a laboratory cat or a house cat, how long they waited in between periods. It was a consistent effect where when the new toy came out, the cat's suddenly like, I want to play. So what we should take from this is that if you're playing with your cat and they seem bored, that it might be time to bring out a different toy. So don't assume that your cat is done with playing. And in fact, you might find that when you bring out the second toy, they're like, oh, this is great. And you might find that they're playing even harder than they were at the start. So that's my take-home message is you may need to use more than one toy during a single play session. And just because we all want to watch cat videos, I just had to share videos. This is one of my clients. Her kitties they had really nice athletic jumps with one of those wiggle worm toys. My cats love those. Oh, these 2 are siblings. All right, so athletic. I would say if you have multiple cats, you might have to separate them. So not every pair of cats is going to tolerate playing this close to each other. But these 2 are siblings, so they were pretty easygoing around each other. But I just like seeing how wild they can be and just the backflips. Now, not every cat is going to play like that, especially if your cat's older. So they may only bat at the toy, and that's still play. So I don't want you to dismiss every cat should look like this when they're playing. This is a little extreme, but very cute. Okay. So I talk a lot about how people feed cats, not what they should feed cats. That's something you can talk about with your vet. But as far as how you feed them, so when we think about how cats eat naturally, if they were on their own in the wild, they would eat 8 to 10 mice a day. And they wouldn't eat them all at once, right? They would eat a mouse, then they'd have to go catch another mouse, so it might be a few hours before they ate again. But they're used to eating multiple small meals a day. And a lot of people feed their cats once or twice a day, which just doesn't really fit in with their natural lifestyle. So if you can feed them, divide that daily ration of food into smaller meals, that's much more like what they would do naturally. They eat small prey, so they're not naturally, so I remember before I said cats don't like to share. Same goes for food, right? Mice are too small to share with another kitty. They're not bringing mice home and, to other cats and saying, hey, let's eat this together. Unlike animals who hunt large prey, right? So dogs are a species who would do some group hunting, take down a caribou or something and share it. That is not the case with cats. And so I recommend feeding your cats in separate locations, even if they get along, because feeding is not a social event for cats. Now, if I came over to your house for dinner and I took my plate and sat in the other room, you would think I'm very weird, most of you. But for your cats, that's totally normal. They do not want to eat together. And if they do want to eat together, the best way to find out is to give them the choice to not eat together. And you know, a lot of cats will kind of swap plates and check out like what's left over here. But again, giving them that choice to eat somewhere else can reduce a lot of tension in households where there's food stealing, or you know, one cat's kind of waiting to eat because they're not comfortable getting close to the other kitty. So I recommend having multiple food and water stations in different locations, kind of like the litter boxes, right? We want to have lots of choices for our cats. And I'm a big fan of food puzzles. Does anyone use food puzzles with their kitties or know what these are? So these are toys that your cat can interact with to get food out. Hopefully these videos will play. So they can, it's a ball that holds kibble inside. They can roll it around and the food will come out. It's pretty cute when your cats do this. So I recommend, so I do this website with my colleague and friend Ingrid Johnson, and we have lots of different options for food puzzles, including for wet food, things you can make yourself. But this is a great way to provide your cat with some mental stimulation. And remember I said earlier, like we took cats' jobs away, right? They're supposed to be hunting and working for their food. So this is a way to bring this back for them, especially if you have a cat who's young, healthy, and very food motivated. This is a great way to keep them busy. And super cute. Look how smart these cats are. All right, so lots of options there. All right, so we've covered the environment. And we can say cats are happiest in an environment that allows them to be cats, right? And recognizes those instincts to hunt, to scratch, to be clean. And so we want to give them outlets for those instinctive behaviors. We want to respect their needs. And we want the environment to be both mentally stimulating and safe. It's that easy. So now, how can you have a better relationship with your cat? Okay, so the first one is kind of tough for us who are cat people, because when I go to someone's house and they have a cat, the first thing I want to do is make a beeline for that cat and show them how much I know about cats. Like, you're going to love me because I'm a cat person. But the science does not support that approach. And so researchers had people go into a room with a cat, and they gave them instructions. So half the people were instructed to just sit down and wait for the cat to come to them. And the other half were just like not given any instruction, just do what you want. Of course, they all like approach the cat because that's what people do. And so what they found was that when humans let the cat approach them, that the interaction was longer and the cat showed more positive body language and behaviors when they were not kind of had humans forced upon them. Now, is anyone here allergic to cats? So do cats love you when you go to people's houses? A lot of people tell me that because they're trying to get the cat to not go anywhere near them, so they're not trying to interact with the cat at all, they're ignoring the cat, and the cat is like very attracted to them. And that, I think, illustrates this idea, which is cats want to make the first move. So how and where to pet a cat? Now this can be very controversial, and of course some of you may disagree with what I'm going to say, so I'm going to qualify what I'm going to say. But there have been 2 studies that have looked at a group of cats, touching them in different areas, what areas tend to lead to a positive response and what areas tend to lead to a negative response. And so the green zone tends to be these places where cats have scent glands on their face. So cats like having their chin, their cheek, and their forehead right in front of their ears petted. Those are kind of universally, for most cats, a safe place to pet them. Overall, the red zone is kind of the danger zone. So for most cats, the base of the tail and the belly are sensitive areas. So what I'll say about this, because some of you may have had a cat who loved belly rubs. I have definitely had a few cats that love belly rubs, and some cats seem to like little pettins on the base of the tail. Is that when we do science, right, we take a sample of the population to make a generalization about cats. And so there's always some individual differences. And so some of the cats may have been perfectly fine with belly rubs. Oh, and just to know, the yellow zone was kind of like a really not like not clear. The cats were unclear about how they felt about most of their body, basically. So what I take from this is if I'm meeting a cat for the first time, I don't know what this cat likes. The safest thing I can do is just stick to the neck up. And once you get to know a cat, if they roll over and show their belly, or they seem very relaxed, or you're petting down their back and they're like, ooh, I like that, then you know, okay, oh, this cat likes that type of petting. But for a cat you don't know well, if you want to not get bitten or scratched, and you want to have a good interaction with the cat, then just play it safe and stick to the areas that science has shown most cats like, which is those green zones. Okay, yep, I just said that. Okay, now you can also ask your cat if they would like to be petted. And this is my cat, Professor Scribbles. And so basically to train your cat to tell you, do you want to be petted right now, is, you just offer your finger to them. And most cats, if they want to interact with you, if you hold out your hand and offer them your finger, they will either sniff it or rub into it, or they'll ignore it. And so if they rub into your finger or sniff, then give them one pet. If they don't interact with you at all, then don't pet them. And pretty soon your cat can tell the difference. They learn that, oh, if I sniff or rub into their finger, then I get touched. And if I don't rub into their finger, they walk away. And so as an example, this is one of my other cats, Coriander. So here's her telling me she does not want to be petted, right? I offer her my finger, and she says, no. Do I get offended when she does this? A little bit. It hurts my feelings. I'm human too, so I wish she wanted to be petted all the time, but I also understand she's a sensitive girl. I want her to feel like she has a choice, and I'm not going to just pet her because I want to. And here's an example of her saying, sure, you can pet me, right? So she has clear moments where she says no, and I respect that, even though it hurts my feelings. So one thing I can recommend to everybody is to learn cat body language. Now, I could give a whole talk about cat body language, maybe next year. But in the meantime, you should check out this fantastic book that my friend Lily, she illustrated my book. Lily Chin, she did this book called Kitty Language, which is beautifully illustrated and shows all kinds of different behaviors and emotional states that your cat is feeling so that you can recognize when your cat's happy, when your cat's confused, when your cat's tired, when your cat wants to be left alone, when your cat wants you to pet them. Like, all of those things are in this book. So that's my tip, is check out Kitty Language. It's a really nice, great gift for any cat lover. I have no financial investment in this book. I just think it's really good. Okay. Has anyone heard about the slow blink? So science says yes. Do the slow blink. So there was actually a study of the slow blink where researchers went into people's homes and had the owner slow blink at their kitty, and then the experimenter slow blinked at the kitty that they didn't know. And so what they found is that when the owner slow blinked at their cat, the cat would slow blink back. So a nice, lovely little communication between owner and cat. And when the stranger slow blinked at the cat didn't slow blink back, but they were more likely to come investigate the experimenter. So it did seem to communicate a friendly intent. So when we slow blink at our cats, we're saying, I'm friendly, come check me out. And the cat probably learns over time, like slow blinking seems to lead to good, when I slow blink, the human pays attention to me, and when they slow blink, they're nice to me. So this is a nice way to just let your cat know things are chill. You feel good, and they will do it back. Okay, when to use a squirt bottle. Anybody have a suggestion on something you use a squirt bottle for with your cat? Yes? When the cat is doing bad stuff. So anybody else? Yes? When they get on the table. Okay, so my answer is don't use a squirt bottle on your cat. Use it to water your plants. And that's because we want to train our cats using positive methods, right? And so I bet you've thought of some things about maybe why your cat gets on the table now. But when we use positive training methods with our cats, we can say, sit on your cat tree instead of on the kitchen table, and we don't have to use the spray bottle. Now, training is also a topic I could speak about for a whole hour, so I don't have enough time. That's my cat Clarabelle. She was really good at high-fiving and doing some other tricks. She was awesome. But there's two great books if you want to take a photo of these books. I highly recommend them. The Trainable Cat, which is written by two amazing cat scientists, John Bradshaw, who did the play study that I showed you earlier, and Sarah Ellis, who works for an organization called International Cat Care in the UK. They wrote this great book about training cats. And then my colleague Marilyn Krieger wrote a book specifically about clicker training cats. And I wanted to show you a video of one of my clients. This kitty, his name is Pyramus, and they came to me because he was jumping on people for attention and biting them. And they were about to have a baby. So they did not want him doing this with the baby, and so we did a lot of clicker training with him. So he learned to sit. And stay. And then he would get a treat after. And then he learned how to touch his nose to a ball, so the stick has a little ball in the end. So he can make Pyramus go where he wants him to by presenting him with this target. He is a good boy. He could go to his mat. Is he not the cutest? He's so good. I was so proud of him. Now, this was the behavior we were working on. So, training takes time. But then he went to his mat. So training takes some time, but it's worth it. Who wants their cat to learn how to do these things? Isn't that cool? So that is just an example of what you can do with training. And again, in this case, we were using it to help solve a behavior problem. So again, something to do more research into, but it's how I recommend training your cat and telling them what you want them to do. Now I'm just going to run through some other things you can do to make your cat happy. Like, you know, I would say if you're going to get like a fish tank, I think the cat liked this because it was warm. Right, so you could get your cat a heated bed if you don't have the time and energy to provide a fish or a lizard with good care, right? So they deserve good welfare just like our cats do. But we can give our cats bird feeders to watch outside. They make bird feeders that attach to the window and even have a one-way mirror so the bird doesn't know that your cat is right there. Some cats can get a little frustrated with this. I haven't had any problems with my own cats and bird watching, but just be aware that some cats might get a little frustrated. So, you know, every cat's an individual, so we have to kind of see what they like and don't like. But I also like watching birds, so there's lots of great bird feeders out there. Olfactory stimulation. So who has a cat who likes catnip? So about 50 to 60% of kitties have the gene. It's a dominant gene, and not every kitty has the catnip response. But luckily, there's another plant called silvervine or matatabi. Has anyone tried silvervine with their kitties? So some of you, great. So it's a member of the kiwi family, and it has a lot of the same chemicals in it that catnip does. And so it produces that same catnip response, but in more cats. And you can also try Tatarian honeysuckle or valerian. So cats like different scents, and every cat, again, is different, but it can be really pleasurable for them. And studies have shown that catnip is not harmful, it's not addictive, it's not going to hurt your cat's liver or kidneys, so feel free to let your cat indulge. There's solo toys, so these are the little balls and mice, ping pong balls, pom-poms that you can provide with for your kitty to play with on their own. Some of you may go, you know, really a little wild with the three-dimensional space. Jackson Galaxy wrote a really nice book about catifying your environment and making it both beautiful and functional. So if you like more high-end, fancy-looking things, but you also want to have a really cool space for your cat, you can take some inspiration from this. You can go high-tech, so some cats do like video games. They like the bird TV shows. There's music for cats now, so there's lots of things out there you can try for your cat. And like only one of my cats likes TV. She really likes TV, and the other two don't even seem to notice. So not all cats are going to respond to this. And just like everything else, they'll get bored if you turn it on all the time. But it can be something you can try every now and then. You can try other sensory stimulation. So I like to provide my cats with different textures, like tissue paper and different fabrics to lay on. My cats really love cat grass, so that's something you can provide for them. And a lot of cats like fountains. How many of you have a fountain for your cat? Nice. So yeah, a lot of kitties really like that running water. You can do safe outdoor time, so I'm personally a fan of keeping cats contained and not allowing them to roam just because there's dangers to them and they can cause danger to other species. So like there's my cat Clarabelle again, she loved being out on a harness. We would just go in the backyard, and that was great for her. She would just roll around in the dirt and kind of explore. Taking a cat on a harness is not for every cat, so some cats really don't like the harness. They are scared of loud noises and kind of that big open space overhead. So if your cat's a scaredy cat that goes under the bed when the doorbell rings, they're probably not a good candidate for harness training, but they might enjoy like a catio, right? And a catio is a patio for your cats. It's an enclosure that attaches to your house. We got one for our cats about 4 years ago, and it was honestly the best thing I ever did. It's like they love it so much. It's nicer than the rest of my house, to be honest. Okay, so it's time to wrap up. So hopefully you recall, like, to get our cats to love us, we're going to respect them for who they are. We're going to recognize their natural instincts and behaviors that make them cats. We're going to give them an amazing home to live in, so meet their needs and provide them with lots of fun things to do and places to hide. We're going to be gentle and kind to our cats. We're going to give them a sense of choice and control when we handle them and use positive methods to change their behavior. And hopefully we have fun with them along the way. So I want to just thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it, and I believe you're going to inundate me with cat questions now, so I'm ready to answer them.
Thank you, Michael. So if you have questions, you come to the aisles and we'll give you the mic to ask your question.
Thank you so much. Do you have any advice or insight into the limitations of getting cats to love each other if they live?
Yeah. Okay, so the question is getting cats to love each other. Again, a topic I could probably spend like 4 hours talking about, and it's the number one reason I'm called for help is people whose cats don't get along. So what I will say is it's very dependent on the cats. We generally recommend a slow, controlled introduction, and if that doesn't work, there's kind of a few options, right? Like long-term management. You can work with a behavior consultant who can help you come up with a behavior modification plan to help change their behavior. You can talk to your veterinarian about behavior medication. You can permanently separate the cats in your home if you really can't rehome one. But in some cases, honestly, the cats really don't want to live together. And I think it's important to recognize that when we bring two cats together, they have no choice and control, right? Like, imagine if someone picked a roommate for you, and some of you, if you're in college, have probably had that experience recently. But most of us would be pretty unhappy if we suddenly had to live with someone and we had no say in the matter, and now we're stuck with this roommate and maybe we're very incompatible with them. So I don't have an easy answer for you. Because there isn't one easy answer. It really depends on the situation. And in some cases, I wish that my clients would rehome one of the cats. And I know that's really challenging right now because we love our cats and we don't want to do that. And of course, sometimes it's not easy to find a home for all of these cats. But the reality is that some cats really don't want to live with other cats and can be very stressful for them. Sorry.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
I guess I feel like everyone in this room does this, but I love kissing my cat on her head.
Sure.
Do cats recognize that as a point of affection, or are they like, please get away from me?
Yeah, so, that's a very primate behavior, right? And so if you look at how cats interact with other cats they actually like, those interactions tend to be pretty brief and frequent. So they'll kind of do a pass-by like rub. But if you have two cats and you notice like they start grooming each other, 9 times out of 10 it ends in some kind of little tiff. And so they do get irritated with too much touch and interaction. We, on the other hand, like a lot of our brain space is devoted to touch in our fingertips and our lips. Like those are two of the most sensitive areas of our body. So we do want to touch and kiss a lot because they're so soft and cute and like, why not, right? So one thing you can do, and so I have my clients send me a video of them like interacting with their cat, And sometimes we have to watch it together so I can show them that their cat is really like not enjoying the interaction, which really is sad. But if you see from a different angle, right, when you're holding your cat, like, I love it, your eyes are closed. You're not looking at like, are his ears back, or, you know, is he like pushing me away? And so sometimes videotaping some of that is like, look at, like, then you feel bad. So, but then maybe you change your behavior. So I think some cats do like a lot of attention and they're okay with it, but it really depends on your kitty. And it's, like I said, you can't always see it when you're kissing them because you're very close.
Right.
At the beginning of the trivias, I saw that all cats, when they're newborns, they start with blue eyes, and then as they get older, they develop different colors. Why do they have blue eyes when they're newborns, and then they develop other colors?
I wish I knew. I do not know, I'm sorry.
Great
I'm a
question.
behaviorist. It is a really good question.
Hi, what advice do you have for introducing cats to a newborn? So I'm about to have a newborn, and I have 2 cats.
Okay, a newborn human?
Yes, newborn human, yes, good clarification.
I had a client once who called me on the way to the hospital to give birth. She's like, I'm about to have a baby. What do I do to like help my cat get used to the baby? And I was like, well, go back in time about like 8 months ago when you first found out you were pregnant. But so you want to think about like what is going to change for your cat, what's going to be new for your cat. There's going to be new sounds, new smells. So playing the sounds of babies crying at a really low level while you give your cat treats. And then just gradually turning it up until it's basically at screaming level, because that is what you're all going to have to get used to. So that's one thing. I would definitely say if you're going to be using like scented baby products, start introducing those smells to your cat now so that it's not like a completely new, like, whoa, suddenly you're using this new like baby lotion or whatever. So planning, a little bit of planning ahead and pairing those new experiences with treats that your cats really like. And I would also recommend, if you're going to make any rooms off limits to your cat or any like furniture or the baby's crib, is to make sure that you're doing that before the baby arrives. So again, you're not kind of abruptly changing everything in their world. And getting several cat trees or vertical space so that when your baby becomes a toddler, your cat can kind of get away and observe as they wish.
So I heard online, I don't have a cat, okay, but so I saw a bunch of people like getting like concrete slabs for their cats.
Oh, yeah.
What's behind that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I saw the concrete slab viral videos, and I think cats are very curious, and when we keep them in our homes, they probably know like every square inch of our house because they're there all the time. So when you bring in something new that's very different, a new texture, they want to investigate it. I mean, most of you put a cardboard box on the ground that just came in. They're like, ooh, let me get in that. So I think it was probably the novelty, and then everybody started doing it and making videos of it. So that kind of makes us pay attention to it, and it's not necessarily like, oh, cats all these years have wanted a concrete slab, and we've just done that. Like I could have just had one slide of my talk, concrete slab. But I think they do like a little bit of novelty. So like what I'll do is if I'm on a walk, I find like a cool leaf, I'll like bring it in and let my cats play with it, or bring a rock in or a branch if it seems clean, and just let your cats investigate it. So there is something to be said for bringing in a little bit of novelty, things for them to explore, letting them sniff your tea or whatever, you know, like letting them kind of investigate things and giving them new things to check out. I think they're just naturally curious. Great question.
Thanks.
Why do cats smell you if you go to a cat?
So it gets back to their very sensitive olfactory sense, right? So their sense of smell. And they actually have what we call 2 noses. They have their regular nose, and then they're able to smell these chemicals that we call pheromones. These are species-specific messages, signals that cats can send to each other. So if you've ever watched your cat sniffing, and then they open their mouth just a little bit, and they make this kind of funny face, like this little organ in the roof of their mouth, it's called their Jacobson's organ, is detecting pheromones. And so they are often very curious. I mean, they're very territorial, and they also have a very distinct smell, so they know what they smell like, and they know what all the other cats they live with smell like. So if you come home with a new cat smell on you, they're like, hold on, like what happened? And I need to know everything, right? So they're checking out that smell because they can recognize like, that's not me and that's not the cat I live with, so I need to get more information. So they're just very interested in, even, you smell, you can't smell anything, but your cat can, they know.
Can cats have like if another cat attacks them, can they like have like a bad experience and like they won't like that cat anymore, or like they'll be scared of it?
Yes, sadly, I do have quite a few clients that their cats used to get along very well, and then something happens and they fight. Often what that is they see like a strange cat outside. I had a client once, they accidentally stepped on their cat's tail and the cat screamed, and then the other cat got stressed out and attacked that cat, and then the two cats started fighting. And it took a really long time to get them to be able to live together again. So sometimes that can happen. And part of it gets back to the fact that cats can survive without help. So it's not that they can't be social and have really close relationships, but they don't have good ways to like ask for forgiveness of other animals because they really haven't evolved to need group living. And so if something hurts that relationship, it can be much harder for them to repair it, and it can take a lot longer, and in some cases they are never friends again. So unfortunately that can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it can.
Our cat is she's a little bit skittish, and she likes petting, but pretty much very briefly from most people, and then she'll like scratch or bite you. But the question here is my interaction with her. It's like I'm a service station for her to get down into the deeper parts of her ears, and
That she can't reach.
yeah, she tolerates that for like 30 seconds or a minute until she scratches or bites.
Yeah.
And I just,
What's your question?
the question is like, tell me about that. And is there a way towards? I mean, I've kind of adapted where I just stop.
Yeah.
But then it's harder for other people who she doesn't treat like a service station to stop when she only wants them to pet for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, so, cats are, again, very sensitive all over their bodies, and they're used to these kind of high frequency, low intensity, like short interactions of touch, and they're not used to this, like, high levels of touch unless it's an individual that they trust, And again, I say that generally, meaning, of course, there's going to be some cats that really like a lot of touch, and some cats that won't let you touch them at all. So if your cat is trusting of you and has a relationship with you, and you read her signals and know when to stop, and she gives you some warning, or it's 30 seconds, then you better stop. If you have other people coming into the house, like sometimes you just have to set ground rules, like, she really only likes one pet at a time, or can you play with her with a toy instead, or here's some treats to give her if you want to have a good interaction with her, but she really doesn't like a lot of petting. Like sometimes we just have to be an advocate for our cat, and I think that's hard because everybody wants to have the cat that everybody loves and that loves everybody. And when you don't have those cats, sometimes we just have to like stand up for them and just say like, sorry, she's, she likes to look but don't touch, kind of situation, or, one petting is the rule. Because you don't want people getting bitten, and it just reinforces for her that people are going to like maybe overhandle her, and it just doesn't lead to a good outcome. So sometimes we have to just change our behavior and kind of accept. I mean, could you like give her a pet and give her treats and give her a pet and give her treats, and would she tolerate more petting? Maybe, but she wouldn't necessarily, you don't know if she's enjoying it or she's just tolerating it because she wants the treat at the end. So it's kind of a it's a mixed bag. So I would just say like, play some ground rules. And often what happens, so sometimes I have clients who have cats that really don't like a lot of petting. And so the instructions to the client are, don't pet your cat for 2 weeks. And they're like, what? And I'm like, well, she clearly doesn't like, because every time you pet her, she ends up biting you. And so I'm just like, just 2 weeks, let's try it. And at the end of the 2 weeks, often they're like, oh my gosh, she's like rubbing against me for petting, like all the time. And again, it gets back to that study, right? That's when we let them make the first move and we let them control the interaction, that they want to interact with us more. So sometimes we do have to just like lay off and just let them come to us. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks. We only have a couple minutes left, so if we don't get to all your questions, sorry. But Dr. Delgado will stick around. She's signing books. She'll answer questions if we don't get to it in the whole group here. So please go.
My cat, like if you're just laying down, they'll attack your hair and just like ruffle your hair and just like bite and claw and all that. Why is it doing that?
Yeah, the hair, I mean, it could just be your kitty's playful and needs some other types of play, and maybe not in the bed, because they might associate the bed with play. But I do think some cats are like, it's either your shampoo or just your natural, like, we have a nice little comforting kind of smell. I think our cats know it, and some cats just are really attracted to it. Again, that sense of smell that we don't totally know. Like, there's some videos online. There's a cat out there who loves olives, and she's just like rolling, like she sniffs the olive jar, and then she's just like rolling around, obviously very happy. And it's like, why is she? It sounds like your cat is probably pretty happy when they're doing that. So what I would say is maybe play with your cat before you lay down in the bed and try to get some of that out of their system. And if that's still a problem, then maybe like not sleep with the cat in your bed if they're keeping you awake at night or really like attacking your face. But but sometimes they just need more play.
Okay, so when you're a new cat owner, how do you what cat breeds are good to get?
What?
When you're a new cat owner, what cat breeds are good to get?
I didn't understand. Cat breeds. Oh, well, that is a very personal decision for anybody who wants a cat. I personally recommend going to the animal shelter and finding an amazing shelter cat, because there's so many of them that need good homes. If you want a purebred cat, you should know that, and I didn't get into this because there's many fewer purebred cats than dogs, right? But when we turn a dog or a cat into a breed, we are limiting their gene pool because we're selecting very heavily for specific, usually physical traits. And when we do that, we increase the risk of certain health conditions. So if you are interested in a purebred cat, please do your research and learn about that cat, like how they've been bred, what kind of health problems they might be prone to, because they might have some things that will require more veterinary care as they get older. And look for a responsible breeder, so that's someone that you can go to their home and meet the parents of your kitten and see what kind of living conditions those cats live in. And they do health testing on their breeding animals so that you are supporting responsible breeding if you decide not to adopt. But my first choice is always adoption, but I know that's not everybody's choice. So if you're going to get a bred cat, then just look for a good breeder that knows what they're doing.
Why are cats so protective of their territory?
It's a great question. We think it has to do with their background as a solitary hunter. And also, if we spay and neuter our pets, so we don't see a lot of the really territorial behaviors, but animals have, needs to, when they live in the wild, to find mates, to find food, and to protect a space around them and be safe. And so again, even though we've domesticated cats, their brain is still telling them, you need safety, you need your own territory, you need your own space, you need your own stuff. And so that's why we sometimes see a lot of territorial behavior in our cats.
Thanks everybody for all your questions.
Thank you so much.